Hello, Anne. How are you today?
Doing pretty well, Thane. How about you?
I'm doing good. I'm anxious to hear the topic today.
Well, I had a haircut today and was talking to the hairdresser about living with family members, something we all
Mhm.
know something about. And she was mentioning how she and her family member she was living with for a while had different takes on cleanliness, as far as they thought she was a neat freak. And she thought, well, things could be a bit cleaner and more tidy. So I guess the word is tidier. But it's interesting perspective, right? Where people are
Mhm.
coming from and how we judge one another based on where we are.
Yeah.
Have you lived with a family member anytime recently?
Oh gosh. Over the years I have. I've lived with my parents lived with me in their last little bit of life, and then they went to a retirement home after that, which I think they did like better. To have their own independence is important. And my brother lived with us for a while and he was quite messy. So I felt like it was disrespectful in some ways to not be more careful in somebody else's home. But he was right at home and at home with his uncleanliness. I mean, he would leave food on a plate, and so he was quite messy.
Mhm. Draw
Yeah.
bugs.
Pardon me?
Did it draw in bugs? Food
Well,
on plate?
no, I don't think it did, but he did leave a hamburger, which is sad to say that Burger King hamburgers look about the same after about a year of sitting there. And the lettuce is still green. I was like, oh
Oh
my,
my.
you might not want to eat those anymore. Hmm. Yeah, it was interesting. To,
So, where do we get our judgments of the right way? Like this amount of cleanliness is right. No, that amount of cleanliness is right.
mm. Well, it's interesting because all of my kids, they're kind of opposite of what they grew up as. They were kind of messy. And the messiest one is the cleanest one now. So it's kind of interesting how it shifts. So I'm not sure. I would think from kind of maybe how they were brought up, and then maybe they do get a taste for, oh, I like it cleaner, you know,
Mhm.
as they mature, maybe. I think my oldest is probably the messiest, but most successful in business. So he probably doesn't think it's put much effort to it.
And that brings up that we can be one way in one setting and another way in another setting, because I truly believe every person is whole. We have the whole range of human qualities inside all of us. And
Mm-hmm.
we have the fluidity of knowing when to be the neat freak, when to be messy, and everything in between. So
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. Are people fluid, or does it have to be this way?
Yeah. And I find that if I go into a house that's too perfect, I feel uncomfortable. Like anything I might do might disturb the. So I think there is a happy medium, at least for me.
Mhm.
If everything is so perfect and tidy, then I feel uncomfortable being comfortable there.
It
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of once bringing a gardener friend to a garden that I thought was lovely, and she was she felt it was so controlled. Everything was so perfectly snipped, and every topiary was perfect that she felt she couldn't breathe in that absolutely controlled setting. So again, I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting. I would never even occurred to me to take it outside. And I wish my yard was more polished. Hmm.
Takes
Yeah,
a lot of work.
it is a lot of work, yes. And keeping your house spick and span is a lot of tidying all the continuous. It's like the dishes, they're never ever completely done. Laundry's never as soon as you get through it, then it seems like there's another pile coming, especially if you have kids and pets.
And that's why some messy people, they just have other priorities. It's just, is it really worth the effort to make everything when I would rather do this, that, or the other thing? And to me, that's valid. People need to decide what's right for them, right?
Mm-hmm. I know people hire people to do their laundry, which I never have, but I have heard that that people do hire even a house manager to make sure you have everything, and it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know what a house manager was until what, a year ago or so. And I'm like, what would they do? And then it's like a contractor kind of. They just oversee that, make sure you have everything. And I suppose they have a gardener then and a pool person and a laundry for something. Somebody details your car and does your lawn maintenance. Yeah, I don't know.
Paper towels, that kind of
Oh, you
thing.
have paper towels, yeah. And do you have the food for the cook to make the dinner and all the way the rich live, I would say.
Well, that reminds me of one particular program I was watching where the woman mentioned that she realized she didn't have milk for a particular meal she was making
Mm,
that night for a particular event. And all she could think of was to ask her soul what to do. She was pressed for time.
mm,
She said she suddenly heard a clunk. She opened the refrigerator and there was a half gallon of milk or whatever it was.
and it clunked. Oh wow.
And so to me, where we are in our development, we do things different ways. And that the physical route, if we're in a physical place, we do things physically. Got to run to the store. But there are other ways to do it. And that's the exciting thing about development is learning all the different ways. And of course,
Hmm.
people who are in their one way and it's working for them, like going to the store, think that's nuts. That doesn't happen. The lady's crazy. When no, it's just a change of consciousness. And when we get that this is a dream world, we can change our consciousness and make a lot of things change. And isn't that easier?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's where the soul comes in, as far as what way is the right way. It's sensing into the soul of what is the way for each of us to expand our consciousness, to evolve, bigger heart, bigger mind, more functional. That's
I love
unique to
that.
each person.
It's
So
what?
it's a unique journey for every
Oh,
person. And do you have a special way you listen to your soul? Like some people do it physically, some people see an angel, some people hear a voice, some people just have a knowing, an inner knowing, I need to go this route. How do you hear your soul?
mm. Well, I love it when I have a knowing, and that's not always the case. Sometimes I call them truth bumps or God bumps. I get, chills. I'm trying to think. Sometimes I've heard words in my, that I have had that experience more than once. I've had intuition, the stomach thing where you just know it in your gut and go do this right now. And I always have told, like, even before it was that spiritual, I always told my kids to listen to gut. And, if their gut, if they, or the words, if you're, all of a sudden hear that you should be in the other lane going around this corner and it doesn't make any conscience sense, you really need to pay attention. I think that's, somebody's helping you out there, and I also look at being if you're detained or late going somewhere out or out on the road, you're something happens and slows you down. Or you take a wrong turn. I say, oh, you just changed history. Who knows whose life you saved or if it was yours, or you just changed it. And I always think of that as a blessing instead of a, oh boy, I'm going to be later now, or so I always look at it in a good way and that it was meant to happen
Nice.
for the good of everybody. So yeah,
Yeah, it's so hard to judge, isn't it? Who
it
knows?
is. And if I would always get a definite knowing feeling, I would love that if that can be possible. Um, there's many times I've even used a pendulum or I've done muscle testing,
Mhm.
uh, on some things, but and I always ask not to influence it because it's really easy to influence things. So I always ask not to influence it, and then it'd be pure, information. But I would like, it takes time to do those things. So if I have it in my body and I know it in my soul, just connecting with that would be much easier, and knowing that it was the right thing.
Is there a way you can tell the difference between um, true soulful guidance and ego creeping in to try to manipulate your choices?
Well, I would say when I've had this experience just recently where I was dreading going on a trip for an class that I was going to do. And I just was dreading it. And I told my husband I was dreading it. And he said, "Well, you're always dreading going on a trip." And which is kind of true. I kind of, till I'm gone, but this time it happened way earlier. And I thought I shouldn't go, but I pushed through and I went. But I would say I didn't really want to go. But it was the best experience that I've ever had. And I was so happy. And if I wouldn't have went, like if I would have followed that initial I'm dreading going, I would have missed out on something that was so exciting in my life. So I think sometimes our ego likes to play with us a little. And so um, I couldn't at that time find the clarity. And I would just say sometimes, um, well, like I think my fear, I don't know if other people have this experience, but if I have some fear around something, um, it'll look like procrastination. It'll look like anything but fear. And it'll be that like that, dreading going. It can be those things. And then when you do it, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I pushed through. And so I think there's like I think we can kind of maybe affect things when we have a mental thought. I think we're tricky people, to be honest. This might be good for her. She maybe should sidetrack herself, like, and so for me, sometimes it's just hard to know that part. And yes, if I could be much more clear, more instantaneous, I would love that. But there are those times where I catch myself stopping myself when it was the best thing I could have did. And
Yeah.
I think fear does disguise itself in other ways that sometimes are, like I say, tricky, you know? And until you push through, you don't. And if you don't, like if I wouldn't have went, I wouldn't have known what I missed. I wouldn't have even distinguished the feeling. So sometimes I think we hold ourselves back when we really should be pushing ourselves to be more out there, more present, more take the risk. I think I definitely feel like sometimes that can look different, especially if we go into fear. And the soul, I would think, whether it be the soul or the part of the brain that keeps us out of fear, it's something with that, I think, at least. And maybe it's just I haven't risked enough to grow that muscle, that feeling.
What do you
And
mean?
well, maybe I'm living life pretty safe, and so I don't really experience much fear. And if I did push myself through fear more often, maybe I would have a different sensation of it or knowingness of it.
Yeah, we definitely have to know the difference between true danger or the fear that this is just new. I'm not experienced here and therefore it's a little scary to know
Mm-hmm.
the difference. And one thing I do is ask people I know to meditate on this decision I'm making, unless their ego get involved. I just give them a multiple choice. Can you meditate on this thing and tell me if you get an A, B, C, D, E, F, or G?
Mm-hmm.
list of all those things, what they mean. I'm thinking one choice I had in my life, I wanted to get a publisher and I really wanted it to be the right one. So everybody got the same thing, except one person got 11. And I said, that wasn't part of the question. And she said, I know, but I got 11. So, okay. Um, she was the one off a little different. So when I called this particular publisher, I started talking to her and she was saying, oh, yes, I've been with the company 11 years. And I thought, okay, that's it. And everybody same
Oh,
thing.
have
So
to recognize it.
did it work out? Not particularly. It
Oh,
was very, very difficult. But the amazing thing was I wrote a speech about it and I ended up giving it to a rather sizable crowd. And I just got the sense that this was part of me going through that experience. It communicated something to someone. And so often we in our egos think it's all about me. How that didn't work for me, that was bad.
mm-hmm.
It might have been bad for me, but it led me to guide someone else that needed that information. We just can't judge. And that's why that soulful perspective is so essential to always be bringing in the soul. Is this right? Ask Thane's soul, ask this person's soul, that person's soul. And if we're all getting the same thing, there just may be a bigger picture and not all about me and my comfort and things working out smoothly and happily.
Mm-hmm. I know I used to, and I don't know why I've stopped this. I used to always say the universe has my back or God has my back. And um, I looked at everything as, even if it turned out bad, I looked for the good in it. And there's so many cool lessons in
Mhm.
things if we really look at them, even good or bad. And sometimes the best things come in the seemingly bad things that just happened. And yeah, I just love that. And it really, I think we are supported. If we believe it, know it, and feel it, it helps to be in touch with our bodies.
And souls.
Yes, our body and soul.
And the experience, even if something is a quote bad experience, it is an experience, and then we can grow
Mm-hmm.
in that. And again, it gives us perspective that we can help another person. Whoop, I've had that experience. You don't want to go that direction. um,
Mm-hmm.
it can be really useful.
And sometimes it's even you haven't you do something and it feels bad, but you met this person that's like a lifelong friend, or you wouldn't have met him otherwise. That was where you met him, and it's like whether you paid to be in a program or and it didn't pan out, but you met so and so that's you're still connected to and very connected to, and that's where you met. So it's like we need to see beyond what we think is reality, in some ways, to know that if you really look, you see things like that. You see why you're there. And it doesn't always make sense at first.
And what value you have in a new person in your life, in a new relationship, that is so valuable.
Oh,
Culture, we're always thinking about money value and property value and possession value, but relationship value,
mm.
that that is so precious.
It definitely is. It definitely you can't replace that. And no two are exactly alike, kind of like our fingerprints and snowflakes. It's like me and Anne or this, and then Anne with somebody else is that, and it's never duplicated. No two are ever duplicated. And I think that's a beautiful um, way to look at it too. Each
Yeah.
each individual creates a different energy, even though you're still there. The main thing is you're there, right?
And
Yeah.
the relationship has its own life, like each individual has its own life. And that relationship wants to accomplish something,
Mm-hmm.
which I feel is growth for each person.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing to think about that two snowflakes. They say snowflakes are all different, fingerprints are all different. And so just like that, a relationship each one's different with each person. Even with your children, it's probably easier to see with your children, especially you have more than two, that you didn't favor one over the other. They're just different relationships, and it's so beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah, because you can't recreate them, that energy from that essence of that person and your essence. And, it can grow and expand and get bigger and better, and some get worse, because of maybe what we're thinking. But the essence of that relationship is always unique and different to each relationship.
Mhm.
And that's why I think comparison is not so good, to compare and to judge and or feel inferior or jealous, like those lower feelings. Like when you really get that it's it's different because we're different.
Yeah. And the main thing is being true to ourselves. That
Yeah,
for me is the main thing. If we can say, I was true to me,
yeah,
that person's drawn to you, great. And if they're not, great. You'll find someone else who is drawn to being real, being authentic, right?
yeah. And maybe they don't even like you, and you can be at peace with that we don't, because I've experienced that too, where surprised as I might be, somebody can like me. I'm like, even that's the people pleaser thing, I was a people pleaser. I wanted everybody to like me, and I would do everything. And it's like letting that go is just such a weight off the shoulders. And it's okay, because not everybody's going to like everybody anyway. So we might as well get over it sooner rather than later.
And
You know,
you really want everybody to be calling you and let's get together, and it would be overwhelming. So it's good that you have your select few.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It'd be like being a celebrity that everybody, when you walk out, wants to give you a hug. And you're just like, I just need a minute. you know,
Right.
these must have they have a totally different life experience because of that, I'm sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Well, would you like to share a bit about our community?
Yeah. Well, our community, we're meeting next Monday, right? At 6. And I don't have the date. Let me look up. Do you know the date? Monday is the
14th of April.
14th already. That's my husband's birthday, too, by the way. Same day the Titanic went down years ago. Lots of things have happened on April 14th if you Google it. Um, so, anyway, yeah. So the 14th at 6 p.m. Pacific, Eastern is 9. Do you know the other times?
Central's 8, Mountain 7. And we're
Oh,
having Maya Hope, who will be talking about getting in touch with your masculine side,
ooh.
which for women can be a struggle. So relationships are not just on the outside, they're on the inside. And the whole
Mm,
thing is to be mindful that we have both a masculine and feminine side, and there's a time to be masculine, there's a time to be feminine. And again, that fluidity of knowing
mm.
a place for each.
And you'll love Maya. She's just a beautiful soul. And yeah, that's very exciting. So hope you all can join us, and let me know or Anne know. And Anne, is your stuff going to be in the email? I guess both of our information will be in the email. But if you're seeing this and you don't know us, I don't have a website yet, but you can reach out to me by text at 425-345-3953. And Anne, do you want to give your website?
Yes, my website is annradelfs.com or email gardener of the soul at icloud.com. And I hope you'll join us.
Yes, yes. It's
You're
always
wonderful.
time. Thank you.
So bye for now.
Bye.